Examine the surface of this unpainted model as the light moves across it. It appears perfectly rigid and flawlessly smooth. On the first day of ownership, a premium domestic casting and a lower-cost imported alternative look identical to the naked eye. Because they look the same on the shelf, the Made in the USA label is often viewed as a marketing tactic, a way to justify a higher price point for a visually similar product. Determining if this label represents a tangible scientific advantage or a simple geographic distinction requires looking at the physical evidence beneath the surface. A collectible model is more than its sculpted shape. It is a specific chemical compound. Most are cast in urethane resin, a synthetic polymer that transitions from a liquid to a solid through a precise chemical reaction. The choice of resin at the point of manufacture sets a permanent trajectory for the model's structural integrity. The total cost of the model accumulates over its entire lifespan, as that underlying chemistry reacts to the air, humidity, and temperature of the display environment. This timeline compares two models 5 years after purchase. The premium U.S. resin on the left retains its original proportions, while the imported resin on the right shows clear signs of structural sagging and surface pitting. Over time, the imported material reveals its instability. The surface discolors, deep yellowing sets in, and thinner parts of the sculpture begin to warp out of their intended alignment. These chemical failures are often invisible until the collector applies paint. The new surface layer then fractures and flakes as the unstable resin beneath it continues to shift. Resin is an active chemical compound, not an inert plastic. Its origin dictates its eventual fate. This long-term stability is a direct result of the specific formulation used in domestic casting. Professional-grade domestic resins utilize high-density urethane polymer bases with advanced cross-linking agents. These agents create a rigid internal network, locking the polymer chains together. This shows the molecular difference. Domestic resin on the left forms a dense, tightly interconnected grid. Budget resin on the right shows a loosely packed, disconnected structure. The tight structure provides superior heat resistance, ensuring models cure cleanly without deforming under temperature changes. Many imported resins are designed for general industrial use rather than fine art. These blends are softer and more elastic, lacking the rigid internal framework of art-grade resins. This elasticity leads to microporosity, thousands of microscopic air pockets trapped just below the surface of the cast. A dense, cross-linked foundation is a strict physical requirement for an archival quality surface that remains stable over decades. Chemical freshness is a critical, though often overlooked, variable in the casting process. Urethane materials are time-sensitive and highly reactive. They have specific shelf lives that begin the moment they are manufactured. This map illustrates the impact of international logistics. As transit time increases, the freshness meter depletes. Resin is subjected to humidity, air exposure, and extreme temperature swings inside shipping containers. Exposure to these variables shifts the raw material's chemistry before it reaches the mold. This transit-related degradation results in unpredictable cure rates and creates a final product prone to premature brittleness. The labor savings found overseas are negated by the physical damage the material sustains during its journey. International transit actively degrades the raw material's chemical integrity, compromising the final sculpture's stability. A localized supply chain offers a solution by formulating and casting the resin within the same region. This proximity minimizes the time between chemical manufacturing and the actual pour, ensuring the resin is used while its reactive properties are at their peak. Handling materials and molds locally also removes the costs associated with import fees and shipping delays. In this application, Made in the USA serves as an environmental control mechanism that guarantees a stable and predictable chemical cure. These chemical differences have a measurable impact on the daily work of artists and customizers. Soft cures and microporosity force artists to spend hours on sanding and rework. When a resin surface rejects primer, the customizer's profit margin disappears. For the long-term collector, the material choice determines the future value of their showstring. Freshly cast domestic resin prevents the yellowing and warping that leads to asset depreciation over time. Buying inexpensive imported models often results in a false economy, where the initial savings are lost to the labor required to correct surface defects. For professional creators and investors, low-quality resin introduces significant hidden costs through necessary rework and eventual physical failure. Researching a model's supply chain isn't necessary for everyone. A casual buyer seeking a temporary display piece may prioritize a lower entry price over long-term stability. This matrix plots cost against stability. The casual buyer prioritizes lower cost, while the professional customizer and long-term collector require high stability to protect their work. Those in professional or collector categories require the chemical consistency that only localized, fresh casting provides. The value of a collectible is defined by matching the chemical integrity of the material to the owner's long-term goals. Protecting your investment begins with understanding the science behind the pour.